The year was 2163. The sky above Earth was no longer blue, it was silver. Giant floating cities hovered high above the clouds, shining like glass palaces. One of them was Neo Aurelius Academy, a school for the smartest and richest students in the galaxy. Students wore uniforms with smart fabrics that changed colors based on mood. Their eyes scanned with contact lens computers. Their backpacks hovered. Their shoes whispered commands into the floor. Everything was perfect. Clean, advanced, expensive. And then, Zane and Zeke arrived. They walked through the gates of Neo Aurelius Academy with simple, dusty shoes. Their uniforms were plain gray, not smart fabric, no hover bags, no islands in their eyes, just silence, calmness, stillness. The other students noticed immediately. Who let the grounders in? One boy laughed, nudging his friend. They're twins. Oh great, two of them, another girl said. Grounders. That was the word for people born on the surface of Earth. Poor, unwanted, behind in tech and culture. No one expected much from them. And in this school, they were treated like shadows. The twins didn't respond. Zane walked straight, his back tall. Zeke followed with a small smile on his face. They said nothing, not even a greeting. In Hall A, where all new students were welcomed, the chatter continued. Rykar, the most popular boy in school, stood in the middle of the room. His jacket glowed gold, marked with the family seal of the Defense Ministry. His father was famous. He saw the twins walk in. Well, look what the wind dragged in, he said loudly. 2 statues from the ground. Laughter echoed around the hall, but the twins didn't even blink. Zeke looked at the glowing floor tiles, then up at the speakers in the ceiling. Zane kept his eyes on the exits, the walls, the camera drones flying above. They were watching, learning, mapping. Hey, statues don't talk, Rykar said again, stepping closer. He raised his hand like he was about to tap Zane's chest. In one smooth move, Zane stepped aside. Rykar's hand missed by inches. Zeke stepped between them. His smile didn't move. Careful, Zeke said softly. You almost slipped. The crowd went quiet for a second. Then more laughter. They thought the twins were being funny. But Zane and Zeke just nodded and walked away. They were assigned Dorm Block C, the lowest level for students with no tech sponsors. Their room was small, no assistant bots, no voice control, just a basic bed, table, and sink. Zeke sat cross-legged on the bed. Zane stood by the window, looking out at the sky traffic above the clouds. Looks like a clean place, Zeke said. Zane didn't smile. Too clean, too soft. They think we're slow, Zeke added. They won't for long. At night, while the rest of the academy played holographic games and posted on social feeds, the twins turned off the lights and began their old training. No noise, no wasted moves. They moved across the floor, punches, kicks, blocks, in total silence. Their shadows danced on the walls. These weren't just random moves. They were forms passed down in the Kara Temple, a hidden place deep under Earth's surface. After World War Nexus, only a few survived with ancient martial knowledge. Zane and Zeke were born in that temple, raised by fighters, sharpened like weapons. The floating cities didn't believe in that kind of strength anymore. They believed in machines, drones, apps, and codes. But the twins were something different. Back in Hall A, Rykar and his group sat on their hover chairs, planning the next prank. They didn't react, said one girl, like robots. Then we'll push harder, Rykar said. Let's see how tough they really are. He looked at the screen. It showed Dawn C's camera feed. But the twins' room was dark, no signal. Odd, he muttered. He didn't know the twins had disabled the sensors without using a single line of code. Just careful placement of light and heat. Old tricks that modern AI didn't understand. Down in Dawn C, Zeke sat with his eyes closed. They'll come for us, he said. Zane nodded. Let them. First strike hasn't happened yet. Morning at Neo Aurelius Academy always began with music. Soft tones played through smart glass walls, followed by breakfast in the Sky Hall. Zane and Zeke entered the cafeteria quietly. The room was full of students wearing light reactive uniforms that shimmered with every move. Conversation stopped when the twins walked in. They carried their food trays like normal students, sat at a table in the corner, silent, calm. But the silence didn't last long. The elite students, led by Rika and his group, had a plan. They watched the twins from across the room, snickering. On the table in front of them was a small device no bigger than a coin. It was called a tickler, used for harmless classroom pranks. But Rika had modified it. One press, and it would send a painful electric shock through the metal tray in the twins' hands. "Do it," whispered one of the girls beside him. Rika grinned and tapped the screen on his wrist. Across the room, the twins didn't flinch. The other students leaned forward, waiting for a scream or drop trays. Nothing happened. Then something strange occurred. Rika's own tray jolted up into the air, as if pulled by static. His drink spilled all over his white uniform. Sparks flew from the tickler device. His table shook. The crowd gasped, laughed, even clapped. Rika stood, red in the face, shaking with anger. Who did that? His friends looked confused. They hadn't touched anything. Zane and Zeke continued eating, calm, still, not even smiling. But something about Zeke's fingers tapping the table seemed rhythmic, like a code. Later that day, Rika stormed into the school's digital lab, followed by two of his tech nerds. "I want a trace. I want to know how they flipped that prank back on me," he barked. The nerds scanned the logs. "There's nothing," one said. "It's like the device turned on itself. No outside signal." Rika's fists clenched. "No one embarrasses me in front of the entire school." That night, the second plan began. At exactly midnight, Rika and 3 others snuck into dorm block C. They carried hover sprayers filled with stink foam, used in combat training to simulate battlefield stress, smelled like rot and burned plastic. They entered the twins' hallway. All was quiet. "Let's go," whispered one of the boys, heading toward room 12. But when they got there, the door was wide open, lights off. They stepped in. Zane and Zeke weren't there. The room looked completely normal, until the last student stepped over the threshold. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. The foam sprayers flew out of their hands. The floor shifted, not with tech, but with pressure-based traps hidden under the tiles. One boy slipped. Another dropped to his knees, coughing. In seconds, the lights blinked on, dim red glow. Zane stood in one corner. Zeke stood in the other. No words. Only silence. The prank squad froze. "What is this?" Rika shouted. "You think you're tough?" Zeke stepped forward slowly. "No," he said softly. "We know we are." The first punch came from one of Rika's boys, fast and wild. But Zane ducked it with ease, grabbed the attacker's wrist, twisted gently, and dropped him to the ground without effort. Another lunged at Zeke. He flipped the boy over with one move. No blood, no bruises, just clean, controlled force. Rika backed into the wall. You're martial artists?" he gasped. Zane finally spoke. "Not artists, students." Zeke added, "And you just failed your first lesson." They opened the door and let the boys crawl out. No threats, no shouting. Just one final sentence from Zeke as they left the room. "You don't start wars you don't understand." By morning, rumors had spread. The prank squad was silent, too embarrassed to speak. Their injuries were minor, but their pride was shattered. Nobody could understand how 2 grounders with no tech gear could outsmart the top students in the school. In the hallway, more students stared at the twins with curiosity, some with fear. Zane and Zeke walked as they always did, calm, quiet, unreadable. But now, the school was watching them differently. The next morning, Neo Aurelius Academy felt tense. Students whispered in the halls. The twins had become the talk of the school. No one laughed at them now. Even the teachers looked at them differently. Rika, the school's golden boy, didn't show up for classes. Some said he was hiding. Others said he was planning something worse. But Zane and Zeke stayed calm, just like always. No bragging, no talking, just watching. After lunch, something strange happened. Every hollow screen in the school flickered. The lights dimmed for a second. Then a message appeared. Fight IT, tone IT, under the dome. Rules. No tech, no teachers, no mercy. At the bottom was a strange digital symbol, one that only advanced coders used. Students gasped. Whispers filled the halls. Everyone knew what this meant. Someone had issued a public challenge, and everyone already guessed who it was for. By evening, a crowd gathered in the old combat dome, an underground arena once used for war training simulations. Now, it was just used for student fights, secret ones, illegal, raw, but no one reported them. Zane and Zeke stood outside the entrance. Should we even go? Zeke asked softly. Zane looked ahead. They'll keep coming until we finish it. They walked in. Inside the dome, hundreds of students had gathered, standing, sitting on metal ledges. Drones floated overhead, recording everything. The arena floor was set. No weapons, no armor, just fists, balance, and brains. Then Rika stepped out from the shadows. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood 3 older students, seniors from the advanced class. Bigger, stronger, all of them with combat badges on their jackets. The crowd went silent. Didn't say it would be fair, Rika smirked. Zane didn't blink. You never play fair. One of the older boys cracked his knuckles. Let's teach these grounders some respect. The dome lights flashed. The match began. At first, it looked like Zane and Zeke were outnumbered. But then, they moved. Not like street fighters, not like school athletes. They moved like water. Zeke dodged a punch, ducked under a leg sweep, and countered with a palm strike to the chest. The senior fell, gasping for air. Zane faced 2 at once. He stayed still until they attacked, then twisted, used their weight against them, and sent them crashing into the wall. Rika tried to sneak up from behind, but Zeke turned just in time and locked Rika's arm midair. You never learned the first rule, he said calmly. Rika groaned, trying to escape. What rule? He spat. Zeke leaned close. Balance beats power. With one smooth move, he sent Rika flying onto the ground in front of everyone. The crowd erupted in gasps and cheers. 10 minutes later, the fight was over. Zane and Zeke didn't even look tired. The seniors were silent, beaten, confused. And Rika, he lay there, staring up at the dome lights, his pride shattered. Zane looked at the crowd. Then he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, we didn't come here to fight, but we won't run from anyone. You think we're from the dirt, but we were trained in the dark. Next time, think before you mock the quiet ones. When they walked out of the dome, no one blocked their way. No one mocked them. In fact, for the first time, some students bowed. The next morning, Neo Aurelius Academy felt different. Students no longer whispered insults when Zane and Zeke passed by. In fact, most students stepped aside. Some nodded in quiet respect. A few even looked afraid. But the twins weren't smiling. They knew something bigger was coming. Because when they got back to their room the night before, they found a small note slid under their door. It was written in glowing ink, only visible under certain light. The dome was never just a fight. You've triggered the watchers. Be ready. Zeke had stared at the message in silence. Zane folded it slowly and said, they were watching us. Later that day, the school called for a surprise evaluation session. The message was sent to only a few students. Zane and Zeke were on that list. So was Rika and the 3 seniors who lost in the dome. When the twins entered the chamber, they saw something new. A room made of black glass, quiet, cold, with only one long table in the center. And behind the table sat 3 strangers. Not teachers, not students. One was an old man in a silver suit. His eyes glowed softly. The second was a woman in full mural armor, the kind only military leaders wore. The third was hidden under a hood. Zane and Zeke exchanged a glance. This wasn't just about school anymore. The man in the silver suit spoke first. "We saw the footage," he said calmly. "You fight well." Zeke didn't answer. The woman leaned forward. "You fought without hurting anyone more than necessary. That's rare. Controlled rage is more dangerous than wild power." Zane simply nodded. Then the hooded figure spoke, a deep, calm voice. "Where were you trained?" Zeke looked at the figure carefully. We don't answer questions without knowing who's asking. For a second, there was silence. Then the hooded man laughed softly. "Smart. Very well." He stood up and walked toward them. "I'm the head of the Aurelius Oversight Division. We monitor students for recruitment or removal." He paused. "And we don't like being surprised." Suddenly, the lights shifted. A thin mist filled the room. The walls turned into holographic screens, showing fight data from the dome. Speed levels, strike accuracy, foot placement. The systems were analyzing the twins in real time. One screen zoomed in on Zeke's palm strike. Another broke down Zane's movement patterns. "These are not random street moves," the woman whispered. This is temple-style combat." But that school was destroyed in the Nexus War. Zane's voice was steady. "It was never destroyed. It went underground." The man in silver stared at them now. "Who are your instructors?" Zeke replied, "Names don't matter. Purpose does." The hooded figure nodded slowly. "We agree." Then he pressed a small button on the table. The room went dark. Only one light stayed on, over Zane and Zeke. "We offer you a deal," the hooded man said. "You can stay in this school and live like normal students. Or you can join the elite shadow class, a hidden program for special students trained for future missions." Zeke raised an eyebrow. "What kind of missions?" The man replied with a thin smile. "The kind where we send ghosts into battle, and no one ever knows their names." Zane looked at Zeke. They had trained for this their whole lives. But it was too soon. Or maybe right on time. Zane spoke. "We'll think about it." The hooded man nodded. "Good answer. For now, you're being watched." He pointed to the ceiling. Tiny drones floated above. "You've just become very interesting." As the twins left the room, Zeke whispered, "This place is bigger than we thought." Zane replied, "And now we're inside its game." Zane and Zeke walked back to their dorm after the secret meeting. Neo Aurelius looked the same on the outside, shining towers, floating lecture pods, and clean metal walls. But now, everything felt different. They knew they were being watched. Every step, every breath. Zeke looked up. Drones hovered, silent as air. "We're not students anymore," he muttered. Zane nodded. "No, we're players in their game." That night, a message blinked on their data pads. "Mandatory Thielti Simu Lation. Class 7, A only Elosiation. Sector 13. Time 400. Do not bring weapons. Observation in progress." Zane narrowed his eyes. "Sector 13. That's off limits." Zeke checked the map. "It's an abandoned lab zone. They want to test us." Zane said nothing. He just began stretching. At 4 a.m., they arrived. 8 students stood waiting in the dark, Ricard among them. His face was bruised but smug. He walked up to the twins. "Funny, you're here again. Maybe you'll learn your place this time." Zeke didn't respond. The gates opened with a loud hiss. A mechanical voice echoed. "Simulation begins. Objective: retrieve the core." The students rushed in. The place was a mess. Broken machines, half-lit corridors, pools of unknown liquid. Suddenly, from the walls, robots dropped down, claws sharp, eyes glowing red. Everyone froze. Zane whispered, "This isn't training. This is a trap." The students scattered. Raikar yelled, "Move! They're on attack mode." 2 students got caught instantly, wrapped in metal tendrils and dragged into darkness. Zeke and Zane moved like shadows, silent, fast, efficient. They used their environment. Pipes, wires, even scraps of broken panels. They weren't fighting like students. They were fighting like warriors. Zeke spotted the control unit in a sealed chamber. But between them and the goal stood the biggest robot yet, 10 feet tall, arms like cannons, sensors tracking every movement. One student screamed and ran. The robot fired a pulse. The boy flew back and hit the wall hard. No one moved, except Zane. He stepped forward slowly, then ran straight at the machine. It charged a blast. Zane dove and rolled under it, flipping behind with perfect timing. Zeke followed, jumping off a wall, slamming the metal rod into the bot's sensory node. The robot froze, then sparked and exploded. The room went dark. A voice echoed again. Simulation complete. Survivors, 5. Mission success. The doors opened. Medical bots rushed in. The twins stood in the middle, calm and alert. The others, shocked, bruised, scared. Roykar limped out, silent. Zane looked up at the surveillance orb above them and said, loud and clear, "You wanted to see what we could do. Now you know." Hours later, in a secret room, the same hooded man from before replayed the footage. The woman in neural armor leaned back, eyes wide. "They didn't just survive," she whispered. "They took control." The silver-suited man added, "They used the chaos, like it was part of their training." The hooded man spoke last. "They're not students. They're weapons." He turned to a glowing screen. On it, 2 names flashed. Zewe and Marek. Zeke Anarek. RECOUITPENT priority. Red line. He smiled. "They're ready for the real mission." The sun never rose over Neo Aurelius. It floated high above Earth's surface, lit only by neon glow and artificial sky domes. But deep inside the academy, something real was about to begin. Zane and Zeke stood outside the head office. The door slid open silently. Inside waited 3 people. The principal, silent but sweating. The woman in neural armor, standing tall and focused. And at the center, the hooded man, now revealed. His name was Commander Rain, leader of the Earth Defense Corps' covert shadow wing. He looked at the twins and spoke without blinking. "You've passed the test. You were never here to study. You were here to be seen." Zane's voice was calm. "You used us." Rain shook his head. "No, we revealed you." He tapped a button. Behind him, holograms appeared, of alien ships, satellite damage, hidden transmissions. "The world you know isn't real. We're on the edge of war, a silent war, and we need fighters who understand both power and patience." He walked over, face to face now. "You've trained in silence. You've fought in shadows. But now, the shadows need light." Zeke frowned. "You want us to spy?" Rain smiled. "No, I want you to lead." Meanwhile, word of what happened in Sector 13 spread like wildfire. Every student knew. No one laughed at the twins now. Roykar didn't even show up to class. The popular kids stared, but said nothing. The twins walked the halls like ghosts, untouchable, unafraid. In the simulation hall, their names were written in glowing letters. SINOECOD8HOLDERs. ZOIN and ZK. CTG. Colon BAT. STRATG. Recovery time. UNNATTE. That night, before lights out, a small girl from Class 3 approached them in the cafeteria. She bowed slightly. "My brother, he was one of the students who froze. He said he'd be dead if you hadn't pulled him out." She handed Zeke a small metal badge, the old-school medal for courage. "It's not much, but he told me to give you this." Zeke looked at the badge, then at her. He placed it gently in her hand. "Keep it," he said. "One day he'll give it to someone else who saves you." The girl smiled. Back in their dorm, a new package waited. Inside, black suits, different from the school uniform. Light armor, stealth mesh, and a simple card that read, "Welcome to Shadow Wing. Mission begins soon." Zane sat on the edge of his bed. He looked out the window at Earth below, spinning quietly in the dark. He turned to Zeke. "We didn't come here to fight students," he said. Zeke nodded. "We came to protect the future." They bumped fists, their silent promise. No more hiding, no more waiting. In the control tower, Commander Rain watched their dorm room on the screen. Beside him, the woman in neural armor asked, "Do you think they're ready?" Rain didn't look away. They were born ready. He turned off the screen. "Now let's show the galaxy what grounders are really made of."